Hello, I'm Tom Wolf, the Executive Director of the Energy Council at the Illinois Chamber of Commerce. Do you know where our energy comes from? Typically, we use energy for one of three things: for transportation, for heating, or for power. Let's break it down in these categories, starting with transportation. It's no surprise that 90% of our transportation fuel comes from products refined from crude oil. Most of the other 10% is from ethanol, and the little sliver left represents vehicles that run on natural gas. When it comes to crude oil, the United States produces about 35% of our supply domestically. One surprise for most people is the fact that Illinois has small oil producers, though they only produce a drop in the bucket compared to our demands. So about 2/3 of our crude oil is imported from foreign countries. But from where? The 10th largest importer of oil to the United States is Kuwait, followed by Brazil, Algeria, Angola, Iraq, Nigeria, and Venezuela. Saudi Arabia comes in at number 3, followed by Mexico. And the number 1 importer of oil to the United States is Canada. Yes, Canada, by a wide and growing margin. In fact, we import more than twice as much oil from Canada as we do from the number 2 supplier, Mexico. Alberta, Canada has massive oil sands with reserves that are second in size only to Saudi Arabia. The good news is that it's a growing supply from a friendly neighbor. The sobering news is getting the oil out of the ground currently takes more energy than other types of extraction, which causes more greenhouse gas emissions. From Alberta, the oil is shipped via pipeline to the United States for refining. The 5 refineries in Illinois and Northwest Indiana get more than half of their crude oil from Canada, which means it's more likely than not that the gas in your car was refined from Canadian oil. When it comes to ethanol, the U.S. produces 10 billion gallons every year. Most of the U.S. ethanol supply is made from corn, though biofuel research might change this in the near future. Most refined ethanol is blended with gasoline, helping our cars run more cleanly. What about heat? This is a bit simpler. Our state's businesses and homes are heated largely by natural gas, with a smaller percentage relying on electricity or heating oil. When it comes to natural gas, most of it comes from the U.S., about 85%, with the rest coming from Canada. But natural gas is a global commodity, much like oil, and prices are set in the global marketplace. So the cost to heat your home fluctuates and depends on international supply and demand. There has been a recent uptick in U.S. natural gas supply because of new technologies and new discoveries, but natural gas is a fossil fuel. Last, but certainly not least, let's review our sources of electricity. We're so used to turning our lights on and off and running our appliances and powering our cell phones and computers that we sometimes forget where the power comes from. In Illinois, almost half of our electricity comes from coal-generated power plants, and almost half from nuclear power plants, and the rest from a mix of natural gas, solar, wind, and a tiny bit of hydropower. Let's start with coal. The U.S. has 25% of all the known coal in the world. This map shows where the coal is in the U.S., and you'll see Illinois has an abundance of coal. In fact, there is more energy in Illinois' coal reserves than in the oil in Saudi Arabia. This map shows where the coal plants are in Illinois. However, many of our state's plants ship coal in from the Rocky Mountain and Appalachian states because the coal there has less sulfur and therefore burns more cleanly than Illinois coal. Even with that caveat, Illinois is ranked 9th in the nation in terms of coal production, with 19 coal mine producers who produce almost 34 million tons of coal that is used to provide electricity in our state, our region, and beyond. Most of the remaining electricity is produced in our state's nuclear power plants. Most people don't know it, but Illinois has more nuclear plants than any other state, and we rely on nuclear power more than any other state. These plants have given us decades of reliable energy without greenhouse gas emissions. One last fact, most of the uranium that powers the nuclear facilities here in Illinois comes from Canada. Between oil, natural gas, and uranium, We have many reasons to thank our neighbors to the north. Renewable energies are a small sliver of our current power supply, but they are growing by leaps and bounds. The wind industry in Illinois is the poster child for this growth. Illinois built its first wind farm in 2003, but we are now home to nearly 2,000 megawatts of wind generation, or enough to power over 500,000 homes. More than 10,000 megawatts of additional wind is now being planned for our state. On this map, you'll see why. The green represents areas in Illinois that have enough wind to warrant the construction of wind turbines. Illinois also has a huge advantage in our power infrastructure, also known as the grid. It is built up and close to these windy areas, so new wind turbines can easily deliver electricity to customers. Much more so than the Plain States, where the wind blows more consistently, but the grid would need to be built to bring the power to the people. Solar energy is also beginning to get a second and third look as the price of the technology decreases, the productivity increases, and the need for alternative energies continue to grow. A new solar energy plant has just been completed in Chicago. The expected output of Exelon's solar plant is 14,000 megawatt hours per year, enough carbon-free electricity to power up to 1,500 homes. And for those of you who wonder if Illinois is sunny enough for solar power, realize that Germany and Japan are the leaders in generating solar energy, and Illinois gets more sun than they do. So that's a quick snapshot of where we get our energy from today. Looking forward, our energy supply can be compared to a three-legged stool. One leg represents the continued and better use of nuclear, coal, crude oil, and natural gas. Another leg represents the needed growth in alternative energies like wind, solar, biofuels, and other new energies that are being researched as we speak. The third leg of the stool is finding ways to use the energy we have more efficiently, weatherizing buildings and homes, and making it easier to use less of what we have. The best part of this stool is that every leg creates jobs and economic opportunities. We certainly hope Illinois creates an environment where all these energy solutions can take root so we reap all the associated benefits. I hope you found this recap helpful. For more information on the Energy Council, please go to www.ilchamber.org and click on the Energy Council page. Thank you and keep energized.